Open the pod bay doors, Tom.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What would you do with a brain if you had one?
Do? Why, if I had a brain, I could...
Miles per hour.
I could while away...
46, 56 degrees.
Science. But I see there's plenty of beer and plenty of wine, so this should go over fairly well. No, it is a pleasure to be here. I work at Auburn University, the Alabama Cooperative Extension. Woo! Auburn. Any Alabama fans here? Any Alabama fans here?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk slower for you guys so you can understand me.
We won.
Yeah, there you go. I'm also the Alabama Cooperative Extension System. I'm a biologist by training. I do a lot of research, but really what I focus on in my line of work is taking the science that we do at the university, interpreting that science into a format that non-scientists can use. So when Eve called me a few months ago and said, hey, I've got this opportunity. Can you come and talk to folks about science? And I said, well, sure, I'd be more than happy to. And wildlife? Well, yeah, I know something about wildlife in the context of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So that was a little bit of a twist for me. I've never given such a talk before, so it'll be fairly brief, but that's good. I do need to know my audience. How many folks have seen this movie before? Ooh, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, you must have seen it 4 or 5 times. Yeah, there you go. Okay, how many people in here can recite at least one line of this movie? Yes, okay. How about 3? How many people can pretty much do the whole movie verbatim? Yeah. All right. So I know my audience a little bit. And I think you'll probably teach me a few things. But as you know, science does shape film, and film does shape our understanding, acceptance, attitudes towards science and facts. Where science is really just the discovering of truth. Is really, if you get down to it, what science tries to do: uncover truth and so forth, develop a set of facts that we all operate on, and hopefully we're all operating on the same set of facts and not alternative facts and so forth. That's a whole other question. I won't go there. But anyways, I think this movie, it took me a while, and I had to go back and take a look at it again last night and even about a week or so ago to really pick out again, at least in my mind, some of those things where this movie ties in science, or at least the thinking about science or scientific method into this movie. There's several different points, and I know when Eve had asked me to come and talk to us, this movie doesn't lend itself well to talking about science. But it actually really does. It does a good job at that. In fact, from 1975 when it first came out, it's been a hit ever since. As we go through this movie, and of course I know everybody in here knows just about all the lines and what's coming up next. But there are 3 points in this movie that really stick out that tie in science, or people's view towards science or understanding of science really well. In the opening scene, what are they talking about? Africans, cliff swallows, okay? Weight ratio, lift, aerodynamics, gravity, so forth. Transporting coconuts, okay? Tropical species, not found in temperate England, okay? How did it get there? Folks think, well, it was carried by birds. In fact, carried by swallows. No. If you think about it, actually, these things are about a pound and a half or so. Cliff swallow, I think they 5 ounces and so forth. Generally not possible. In fact, it'd be even tough for an eagle to do that. But really, if you really take a look at this scene when it comes up and follow the discussion and dialogue, it's a clear example, and you see this nowadays in today's society at times, a denial of facts, okay? Somebody gets presented with facts, some people prefer to deny those facts. But that's just one good example of how science is viewed by society, at least in some context. Next excellent example, and this is actually folks that go through the scientific method. What scene? The witch and the duck, okay? This is a perfect example of the scientific process. It is. I know you're laughing, but it is. Okay, the scientific process, okay? If you think about it, they identified a research question. Is she a witch? Okay, that starts off. They make observations, okay? And the town folks said, well, she looks like a witch. She turned a man into a newt. She's got some power, okay? We also know that witches burn. They burn like wood. Wood floats. What else floats? A duck. Okay, there you go. Okay, we're making the connections. We're doing some inductive reasoning as you go on. Then what comes next? Anybody remember back to their science days? Back in college or high school? We develop a hypotheses based upon those observations, okay? If she weighs the same as a duck, then she'll float. Therefore, she is a witch, okay? So this movie sets up this whole scientific process. Then what happens? After we have a hypothesis, we have to test it somehow, okay? And we do that through experiments to determine if the girl weighs the same as much as a duck, okay? We conduct the experiment, we collect data, we make observations, and we make a conclusion. And they made a conclusion there. She weighed the same as a duck, therefore, she is a witch. She's a witch. Very simple, okay? That's science and process. Well, a parody of science and process. But if you think about it, all of us at the university, when we're sitting around in our offices, that's what we're doing. Trying to figure out whether or not she's a witch.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's hard-earned taxpayer dollars. All right, the next thing, killer rabbits.
That's right, baby.
Woo! Okay, be careful. Okay, moral of the story there, killer rabbits.
Are real.
Well, I don't know. Things may not always be as they appear, okay? Be inquisitive, fact-find, conduct experiments, and so forth. We got to finish it out. Pop quiz. Probably not in killer rabbits. What is the largest rabbit species that we do have? It's a wildlife. I'm a wildlife geek. Okay, I'm sorry. 22 pounds. That's a big rabbit. Not as big as a white rabbit in the movie, but close enough. So as we go through this movie, obviously enjoy the movie. But also be thinking about science and how it ties into science. And I think you'll pick up on a few other areas throughout the movie that does a really good job of either portraying how we think about science, how we gain knowledge, or how we refuse to accept facts. Okay? So what held true in 1975 still holds true today. So be thinking about that as we roll through this movie, and that's all I have. Any questions? Good.